Well, welcome to another How Conversation on Moral Leadership. And I have to say, I am so looking forward to this How Conversation that has been a long time coming. So I hope that you listeners will be as inspired as I am to get into this conversation. We're with Chip Brewer today, the president and CEO of Topgolf Callaway Brands. And Chip, welcome. I have to say, you're putting on just another phenomenal Southern California day behind you. I hope you don't tire of that, but share a little bit with us of what it's like to live in paradise.
Hi, Dana. Thank you. Great to be with you today. And it's pretty nice living out here, to be honest with you. We've got some of the best weather of the country, and so you have to get used to the 65 to 75 degrees, sunny, and the air smells like flowers. It's far away from the East Coast. It's sometimes tough on the travel, but a beautiful place that we don't take for granted.
Let's start at the beginning of your journey. Who influenced you? Who mentored you early on in your career? And maybe helped shape the way that you have embraced your values for your life and your leadership framework.
Dana, like everyone, it's a lot of people and experiences that influence you along the way, and that continues to uh, be influenced and shaped and changed. So it's a never-ending journey. But the biggest influence on who I am and was how I was raised, and probably my father. Um, I grew up in fortunately a very strong home. And I played high school golf. I played golf. I fell in love with it. And my dad was a very good amateur player in the Philadelphia. And so that caused us to get fairly close. And I was able to watch him compete, listen to him talk about it, listen to him talk about business. And he had very strong values and views. He was uncompromising in his morals. He was an outstanding competitor. His boss once called him the moral compass of the company where he worked. And, so I picked up a lot from him. We were in a father-son event in the lead on the 17th hole, and I inadvertently brushed some pine straw with a towel, and he at that time that was illegal. It's legal now, but the rule kept changing, and when I did it, evidently it wasn't kosher, and he did not hesitate. He just walked over his son. That's two strokes, right? I'm like, really? It's the father son. But anyway, he was right, and you pick up on those things. But he's had the greatest influence probably of any one individual on me. I still um, think about how he would think about things, use some of the uh, adages he's passed on to me, and you'll hear some of those today. Things like hard on the issues but soft on the people, and other approaches to both business and life that have resonated with me and keep me uh, with a strong compass as we move through, whatever life brings you.
Well, you honor him, and not just in how it's imprinted in you, but also how it impacts upon your thought process and your behavior, your character, and your destiny. So we'll get into that, as you said, a little bit more. Uh, Let me ask you about this golf game, because we haven't had somebody on that's like yourself, and people call it a gentleman's game or a gentle person's game, as I see you're really inching up the number of women involved in the game.
It's
It,
great.
yeah, it requires this strong character and kind of integrity. Someone who knows the game well, you've lived it for your entire life pretty much. What can we take from the game of golf to apply to moral leadership?
Well, Arnold Palmer had a quote, and he said in his quote that golf doesn't so much build character as it reveals it. And I think that's a great quote because there's no question that golf reveals character, but I think it also builds it. And I feel very strongly on that. There's a lot of stories about how golf will reveal character. Um, you you either show grace under pressure or the opposite. There's nowhere else past the ball. It's you and the golf course, and it's not always fair. But what else is not always fair, Dana? Life's not always fair. It's statistics. It'll likely balance out, but at any one time, you're going to hit a perfect shot. It'll go in a divot. That's going to happen. And, how do you respond to that? Everybody's a great winner. But how are you when things are not going your way?
Talk a little bit about, and maybe share a story of a conversation that you had on the course that, there's a connection that happens when you're playing the game of golf. A lot of people
Yeah.
business playing the game of golf, and maybe something that maybe happened on the golf course that would not have happened in a traditional office setting.
I've got so many stories about that, Dana. And, I've been fortunate to be around the game of golf for my whole life. And I picked up so many great relationships and, experiences. It's helped me bond with different people. It's one of the great aspects about the sport. And, for instance, I remember how does it help the business? Well, it helps your business because it builds stronger, deeper relationships. I played golf one time just socially with a individual that owned a bunch of golf resorts. And we did some business with them, but we didn't do much. We were their third or fourth vendor. But and we played that day. I didn't talk about his business and our relationship per se. Uh, he didn't either. We talked about a little bit about our businesses, what we were trying to achieve. We talked about our families. We talked about where the game of golf was going, and we connected. We liked each other. One of the great things about business is you get to do business with people, and it's more fun to do business with people that you like and your values are aligned. And later that year, unbeknownst to me, and I took no action to help this, they were going through a review of who their primary vendors were going to be going forward. And, that individual advocated for Callaway, and we're now their number one vendor and it simply came about because of the ability to play some golf together and build a deeper relationship. I make a point of playing with my team, to those that play. We build deeper relationships. We have connections. It reveals and builds character. And sometimes I can do it even without playing with them, Dana. So, for instance, we have um, an event we do annually among several, but one of them is a women's empowerment event that we hold up at Topgolf in El Segundo. And at that, we bring in high potential and senior women leaders throughout the organization. At that event, I caddy. There's a little 10-hole course there, and I carry the bags for a couple of the women in a foursome, usually high potential individuals that I would love to get to know more, that I don't know at that time. We have a few laughs. Sometimes they're not golfers at all. And so we're kind of learning how to play the game and appreciate the game. And they're getting to know me a little bit. They're picking up on the fact that the organization really values them and, wants to encourage them, providing them a networking opportunity and meet some of the others.
Maybe share how you set the tone for this culture of this new merged
Yeah,
organization, maybe even some looking back at the culture from building Callaway Golf to Topgolf and Callaway brands and embed
yeah.
it at every level from, and in an authentic, enduring way from your own values for the company.
Well, there's a lot in that, Dana, and it's crazy important. So uh, there's several different aspects. Culture is just so important for any successful organization. So much has been written, everybody will know that, but it's how do you identify, drive, and make sure it's embedded in all the levels. It has to be something that is in your mind and you are planning for. We have a culture wall. We have culture documents. Um, and, I have a copy of it here. It's literally painted on the wall in our headquarters. We'll pass it out. We'll keep it evolving over time, meet on it, talk about it. We'll reinforce it constantly. You have to repeat yourself as a leader a lot. It feels kind of crazy. So, if for new leaders out there, if you feel like you're repeating yourself, good. You need to do that. It does feel stupid at times because you're like, everybody already knows that. But they don't. They're focused. They don't see you every day. And so every chance you get, you have to talk about for us, being humble and hungry, daring to be great, being a force for good in the world, all of the things that are part of our culture document have to continue to be repeated, throughout all of your interactions and organizations. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, you have to match what you say with what you do. If you say it and then don't do it, the world's going to suss that out immediately, and you're not going to be effective.
You also use JSPD as if it's a word, and I know the military, we have a lot
Yeah,
of acronyms. Usually we have a
yeah.
vowel in there, but you don't.
Yeah, we didn't buy our vowel, but the it's DSPD, which is and it's totally awkward, but it's a huge part of our culture. So it's front and center in our culture. While you're going to hear me talk about it today, and then this is an Ely Callaway expression, and
Your
uh,
founder.
the founder of Callaway Golf, but it applies to our mission statement. It applies to how we go about uh, creating products, services, and experience. But it's basically pleasingly different and demonstrably superior. So it is how we approach our business, and it's a cornerstone of our strategy. And you're going to hear us talk about that. It's internal speak. Like you noticed, it sounds like gibberish from the outside, and that's fine. But internally, it's gospel. And every individual within T Topgolf Callaway brands, TCB, love our acronyms, uh, is going to know that and know that's how we approach our business.
And so let's go into this research and
Sure.
development and the shift part as being kind of a major driver in the Topgolf Callaway brand merger, your competitive edge. Most likely, this requires like bold swings and calculated.
Right.
What is your process or framework for taking these high stakes, sometimes risks, or making these high stakes type decisions?
Sure. Okay. So they're all a little bit, the different degrees of risk and stakes that you factor in, Dana. And so the process is, of course, a little different throughout. But first of all, at Callaway, roots of the company, DSPD, and then Topgolf Callaway, we definitely encourage bold swings and calculated risks. It's who we are. It's part of our DNA and culture. Again, on that culture document that I talked about, you see front and center, DSPD, demonstrably superior, pleasingly different. We want to stand out. And so that is bold. That is innovation. That is risk. And then one of the other things you're going to see on that culture document, dare to be great. Okay. does not say be careful. Uh, Not all companies can or should do that. If you're Boeing, right, you want to be a little more risk averse. If you're ExxonMobil, right?
You know, we at the Howe Institute for Society, Dov Seidman, our founder and chair, talks about taking a trip, which
Hmm.
is, you know, to get progress, you have to have innovation. To have innovation, you have to take risks, you know, and calculate those risks, but on the basis of trust, right? And
A hundred
one,
percent.
yeah, one example I'm wondering if you'll share with our listeners was one time where you went into an R&D getting ready to launch a product and you kind of said time out. That's, you know, is
That
this
was early in my tenure here, and it was one of the. I mean, it helped change the company and culture, but it was I was here maybe 3 months. And at the time, Callaway was a turnaround. So we were losing money and our market shares weren't very high at that time. Fortunately, now we've been a leader in the golf club market for like 9 out of the last 10 years. But at that time, we were probably third or fourth. And they were reviewing, I think it was a fairway wood, and it was the new fairway wood for the next year. And I just started with the company and they showed me what they had in the works, and uh, it was not that compelling. And I asked a bunch of questions about that, and they said they've essentially conceded, yeah, it's not that compelling, but it's all we can do right now. And I said, well, I disagree. Uh, and I was taking a huge risk because I had no idea whether I was right on this or not. But it was consistent with my value at the time. And we're not going to launch that. And we're going to figure something out. And so this meeting's over. And everybody just looked around and they didn't know what to say or do. So they looked at each other. And I said, the meeting's over. And they got up and left. And I didn't know how they would react. I didn't know if, that was going to be the boss is crazy and I got to get out of here and everybody would run and update their resumes or what. But it ended up being very inspiring to them. Uh, the engineers at Callaway had come to, make great golf product. They could have been working for a defense contractor and launching missiles or airplanes or something else cool, but they liked golf and that's why they came here. And they weren't inspired making mediocre product. Uh, the fact that we were going to change that and there was a commitment to it and they were going to get supported on it, and uh, they kind of got fired up.
well, let's go from that example, which I appreciate you sharing, to leading in crisis, because you know, the only thing certain right now is uncertainty.
Yeah,
And yeah, whether it's financial, social, geopolitical, rough seas are inevitable every day.
yeah.
So
Crazy
let's,
how the frequency now, Dana, is uh, maddening, but it is what it is, right? Yeah, we seem to have a steady stream of what would have been one-time events.
and so it's becoming the novel normal, right? We're so
Yeah.
fused fast. What's your most important practice to kind of navigate this with your moral compass? And what's your personal playbook to get through these turbulent times? Not just to
Yeah.
get through them, but to thrive through them.
Well, you got to remember, okay, this is the new normal, so we're going to have to go through our stages of grief, denial, anger, acceptance, and deal with it. Right? It's like we're going from COVID to post-COVID inflation to there's multiple wars. We had operations in Russia. We shut them all down. FX rates swing around, supply chain disruptions, now tariffs. We don't even know what our costs are going to be July 9th, let alone end of the year. So the world's complicated and it's getting more complicated and more turbulent. Uh, Sad, maybe. The best teams are going to do the best in that environment. You're going to have to learn to deal with that pace of change and turmoil, unless there's some miracle and we get uh, smooth sailing. But I'm not counting on that, and I'm not telling my team to count on it. I'm telling them that they're resilient, they've proven themselves, and it'll actually benefit us more than others because we'll be able to deal with that in a competitive advantage. Um, each one's a little different, and it's kind of a cliche, but stay calm. Keep calm and carry on, right? But it's you're uh, and one of my pieces of advice for other leaders is, as leaders, you're all going to want to act. So I don't have to tell people that are, in leadership roles to lead. They're going to get, they're there, they're leaders. What I would counsel people on is, if there's a shot clock, know about it. So if there's a time where you're going to run out of cash or you have to react, or uh, be aware of that, and don't let the buzzer go before you act, but use the time that you have as well. I see people reacting too fast as much as I see too slow. And you don't have to act before the shot clock is moved. Sometimes you just don't have the information. That's one piece of advice. And then, what I talked about before, soak in a lot of input, build support and consensus. It is definitely time to lead. It's also time to be human. When you're doing it, you got to put the organization and stakeholders first and foremost ahead of yourself.
I was very moved by your use of the word pause, and how it's kind of the antithesis of reacting. And
Yeah.
yeah, you
Yeah.
gave one example, I think, about a sponsoring of, some people who were sponsoring an individual maybe took away sponsorship, but you decided to pause in that situation. And pause means a lot to us because it's a time where you actually wrestle with the nuance of a moral dilemma. And so I'm wondering if you might share that example of the time
Sure.
you pause to reflect, to kind of reconnect, rethink, reimagine the sponsorship of that individual.
Okay. I think you're referring to Phil Mickelson, and uh, it was kind of tail end of COVID, but it wasn't COVID related. It was Phil's um, movement to live, and how he communicated some of that. Phil's been a long-term ambassador and friend of Callaway Golf. He was our key uh, athlete for many years. He's done a lot of great things, one of the great champions around the game. But he moved to live, and in the move to live, he said some things negative about the PGA Tour, and at the time it was very divisive and polarizing. And so, sponsors were dropping him, the world was throwing tomatoes at him, and it was difficult and sad to see, but it was one of those things that happen from time to time. You know, People are people, they have lives, they've gone through their own things. And, I talked to Phil about it. I talked to his agent. I talked to other sponsors of him that I had good relationships with, etc. And we paused. I didn't, we needed to let this uh, uh, evolve a little bit. It's the same thing. I didn't want to. There was some loyalty here. We didn't agree with some of the things that he was saying or doing at that point in time, but you're going to go through those things in any leadership journey, right? Where uh, you're going to have changes in the relationship, and you're going to have to make a decision on how you want your uh, partnership to evolve. And Phil handled that with us beautifully, and we, I think, handled it with him appropriately. And so, but an interesting leadership experience and lesson.
So let me just transition into the fact that as a publicly traded company and leading one, you've got a lot of people you answer to, whether it's your board, employees, customers, all stakeholders. So with these competing perspectives and demands, when you have to kind of make a decision and there is no perfect outcome where everybody's happy, wouldn't that be nice?
Right. Yeah, that would be great. By the way, Dana, those usually aren't the decisions that make it to the CEO's desk, right? Because if there was perfect outcomes and it was clear, someone else will have made that decision. The ones that get percolated up are the ones that are
hard.
hard, or you're choosing between suboptimals, but you're trying to do the lesser of those suboptimals.
How would you summarize your way of navigating that? What's your compass?
For me, and I talk about it, and my team knows what these are, it's your non-negotiables for, start that. So you're usually making trade-offs, right? And what's non-negotiable for me and a non-negotiable is something that if I have to be fired, I'm fine going down. I'll die on that hill. That is, so we have to figure out what those are. For me, DSPD products and services, right? That's how we approach the world. And if I'm spending too much on R&D or something along those lines, I got it. But I'm not going to be the leader of this business without us being positioned to make DSPD products, services, and experiences. I get it. Somebody else may make a different trade-off on that, and more power to them. But I won't. So it is a non-negotiable as I make whatever trade-offs. The other is it's a great place to work. And great place to work has a lot of different meanings. But it means that, and we're going to be successful. That's a non-negotiable as well. So we're going to be a successful company within the context of those other non-negotiables. It's not, I have to deliver shareholder value. I have to deliver, to all stakeholders, but that is going to fall within your own values or what you view as non-negotiables, how we go to the market. And I'm going to place those bets. And therefore, when you're making a decision, because you're going to have to make 1,000 of them, and you're balancing, what you do, those being established up front kind of give you the moral guideposts to make it clear at the end, right? It's like, we're not going to, cut costs or do something that makes Callaway not a great place to work. I get it. And lots of companies do. We won't.
This has been a fabulous conversation on moral leadership. So many rich takeaways. We can't thank you enough for not only sharing your story with us, but also how you live it. I just want to say, I think our listeners heard such steady leadership, humility, and hunger in success. Boldness in the transformation, all reminders that moral leadership is both a mindset, it's also a muscle, and it's a moral muscle that we practice. So we're grateful for your example and your time with us. We hope this is just the beginning of a stronger relationship, deeper and broader, with how and moral leadership. We salute you. We thank you. We chip off with you and look forward to the future. Thank you once again. How Conversation with Chip Brewer.
Thank you, Dana. Pleasure to be with you.